Good evening. My name is Ellen Kelly, and I'm moderating the candidates forum for certain offices in Valencia County on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Central New Mexico. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan grassroots organization of men and women that works to protect and expand voting rights and ensure everyone is represented in our democracy. We empower voters and defend democracy through advocacy, education, and even occasionally litigation at the local, state, and national levels. We are always looking for new volunteers to help with our work. So please explore the national, state, and Central New Mexico League of Women Voter websites to learn more about what we do and to see if you might be interested. The League of Women Voters for Central New Mexico is conducting 2 Valencia candidate forums in the run-up to this November election. This evening's is the first of the 2 forums. And if you're watching it on video, it's being recorded on Wednesday, September 28th. This forum is covering the race for Valencia County Sheriff, 3 magistrate judge positions, in New Mexico House District number 8. The second forum will be on Monday, October 3rd at 6 p.m. It will include 6 positions: New Mexico State Representative District 7, the County Assessor, the Valencia County Commissioners Districts 1 and 3, and the Valencia County Probate Judge. So before we begin, let me also suggest that starting the week of October 3rd, as of this evening, that would be next week, you look at vote411.org. You can see that up on your screen, I believe, to learn more about the candidates and the issues that will be on the ballot this fall for all of our statewide races and for the ones in Valencia County. All right, we're going to start this evening with questions for pertaining to the Valencia County Sheriff's race. We have one of 2 candidates here for the forum, Rodney Jones. Mr. Jones, can you wave your hand, please, so everybody can see where you are? Thank you. Who is running as a Republican candidate. And also on the screen at this point are the other candidates that we have for the forum. There are 3 magistrate courts in Valencia County. Division 2 has its offices in Belen, and divisions 1 and 3 are based in Los Lunas. Magistrates can hear cases that involve claims of personal injury, contract, and landlord-tenant rights, as long as the claim value of the case is less than $10,000. Magistrates also hold preliminary hearings in felony criminal cases and can decide misdemeanor and traffic cases, including DUI/DUI. And so this year there are 2 candidates for each of the 3 magistrate judge positions. All right, now I'd ask the candidates to raise their hand as I get to your name. The magistrate candidates for Division 1 in Los Lunas are Mr. Michael Melendez and Mr. Miles R. Tafoya. For Division 2 in Belen, the candidates are Del P. Washington and John R. Chavez. For Division 3, also in Los Lunas, the candidates are Desiree Ann Stickler and Sabrina Real. And once we get to that, I'll be asking the same questions of all 6 candidates. And then finally, last but definitely not least, we have the candidates for New Mexico House seat number in district number 8. And those candidates are Mr. Brian Baca, who is running as a Republican, and Mr. Paul Kinzelman, who is running as a write-in candidate. And so we're going to start with the sheriff's race. And so the other candidates will be able to listen to those questions and answers, but they will not be visible on the screen. All right. Is that going? Yes. All right. It is going to happen.
I'm sorry, good afternoon. Ellen, are you asking me to introduce myself?
Hold on just a second, please, until we have the screen cleared up as I think we're supposed to.
The other people on here, I just heard
Mr.
mine.
Jones?
I'm sorry?
Ellen, are you starting with Mr. Jones?
Yes, we are.
Okay, then I'll demote the other candidates. Thank you.
Just tell me when to start, Miss Ellen. Do you want me to start?
No, not quite yet. And I'm sorry about the dog barking in the background. Have you just taken Mr. Jones off the screen? Right, we need Mr. Jones back on the screen. There we are. All right, Mr. Jones, if you would like to do your opening, your introduction, please. You're muted. You need to unmute.
I'm sorry, were you asking me to start?
Yes, please.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having this meeting tonight. Thank you to the League of Women's Voters. My name is Rodney Jones. I'm running for Valencia County Sheriff. I'm educated. I hold a bachelor's degree in business management. I also have a degree in criminal justice and gunsmithing. I have 22 years of law enforcement experience. I worked with the Valencia County Sheriff's Department and retired at Las Lunas Police Department. At both of those departments, I was a sergeant. My concentrations were also in the detective division, where I served as a violent crimes detective, property crimes detective. I also was specifically a crimes against children detective with Valencia County. With both departments, I was also a SWAT team member. On both of those departments, I was on the SWAT team, a sniper, a designated sniper with the SWAT team. Since my retirement, I have held several positions. I've been a chief judge here in Isleta, and currently I serve as a tribal council secretary. So I am on tribal council currently. I also run a small gunsmithing business. So then with that, I'm educated and I have the experience, and I'm able to make impartial decisions based on the professional positions I've held. And that's why, again, my name is Rodney Jones, and running for Valencia County Sheriff. Thank you.
Ellen, you need to unmute.
Yes, I did that. Sorry. I'm sorry about that. Without additional funding from the legislature, what steps can the sheriff's office take to reduce violent crime in Valencia County?
I'm sorry, I kind of missed the first part of that question.
without without getting a lot of additional funds from the state legislature, what steps can the sheriff's office take to reduce violent crime in Valencia County?
Very good question, Ms. Ellen. Without additional funds, we certainly need to generate more monies to fight crime. And I'm glad that you asked that question, and that's one of the reasons that I have announced my undersheriff, who is Lisa Valenzuela, who is a grant writer. So she wrote grants for Las Tunas PD. She brought in something like 760,000 additional monies for the police department. And without additional monies, crime cannot be fought. So we need more money for manpower, especially we need additional manpower to fight the drug issues that Valencia County has. So we need manpower, we need funding, and without funding, you can't have additional manpower. There's also, my understanding is the governor of New Mexico has given, I think, $50 million to additional funds for sheriff's departments or law enforcement in general to basically recruit and retention. So without retention, we can't have that.
Whoops. All right, next question. Do you support or oppose a statewide ban on the sale of assault-style weapons?
I'm sorry, you broke up again.
Do you support or oppose a statewide ban on the sale of assault-style weapons?
Miss Ellen, you know, that is up to the legislators to make that decision. Whatever decision the lawmakers make, I am obligated to hold up the law there. And that is not my position as a sheriff to decide whether or not assault style weapons are going to be allowed to be sold here in New Mexico. That is strictly something that our legislators have to decide up in New Mexico. My job is to enforce the laws that our legislators decide. And so with that, then that is not a question for me to answer.
As sheriff, what steps would you take to enforce New Mexico's red flag law?
Again, that is up to our legislators to decide what laws are passed. And I, as a chief law enforcement officer, I am obligated to enforce those laws, whether they're red flag laws or otherwise. That is, again, the job of the legislators up in Santa Fe to decide those laws. My job is to enforce the laws.
Do you have any position on what would be necessary to enforce the current red flag law in New Mexico?
I'm sorry, the second part of that question, red flag laws?
The current red flag law. Do you have any opinion about what it would take to enforce that law?
Basically, again, the laws that are currently in place, the legislators decided what laws they wanted to put on the books. And my job, again, is to enforce those laws. And if they come across my desk to enforce these laws, whether they're red flag or whatever laws they are, then that is my job, is to enforce those laws.
What do you see as the strongest and weakest aspects of the sheriff's office in Valencia County?
I would say the weakest point would be the manpower issues. Valencia County suffers with a lack of manpower. my understanding currently, the sheriff's department is about 12 or 13 positions down. And those positions really don't get filled up. You lose one, you gain one, you lose one. You gain two, you lose two. We, as a sheriff's department, we really need to figure out how to retain qualified people to run to have in the sheriff's department.
Can I ask the timekeeper how much time we have left for this portion of the forum?
Yes, hang on one second, Ellen. I'm sorry. You have 3 more minutes.
Okay. Mr. Jones, what steps do you think the sheriff's office should take to fill those positions?
What steps? The culture has to change. The culture has to change within the sheriff's department. We have to make it to where we figure out how to retain qualified applicants, and culture has to change in a way where we want our deputies to stay at the department. We can't compete with bigger departments such as state police or Albuquerque police where they pay $10 to $15 more. So we need to figure out how to keep and retain the personnel that we have now. And that is changing the culture. We need to make the Valencia County Sheriff's Department a positive place to work. We need to make it safe for deputies to be able to voice their opinions on how to better the department. And that is something that I can do as a business manager. That is something that I would certainly be doing, is changing the culture. We also need to create a more professional program within the sheriff's department. We need to create a professional program in the way of deputies creating their own, how would you say, their professional development where they
You can finish your sentence, please.
where deputies have a professional development. What's that word I'm trying to use? What is it within the department that they want to do? What is it within the department that they want to become and eventually get to that position?
Okay. Would you like to make a closing statement? You have 90 seconds.
Yes. Again, my name is Rodney Jones. I hold a business management degree. I have 22 years of law enforcement experience. With that, I was a 22-year, I was a detective. I was on the SWAT team. I was both a firearms instructor. Also, my concentrations were on violent crimes, and since retirement, I've been a tribal judge, and I currently sit on tribal council, so I have a very good understanding of how government works, and that is why I make the best qualified applicant for sheriff's department, for sheriff.
All right. Thank you very much for participating in the forum. Feel free to stay with us if you'd like to listen to the answers of the other candidates as the evening goes along.
Thank you.
Ellen, could I jump in? Could you use the headset? Otherwise you are periodically muffled.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now waiting for our, the magistrate candidates to come back on screen. Okay. I think we're still waiting for Ms. Sickler. Here we go. Right, since there are several candidates, please wave your hand if you cannot hear me. Let me repeat which candidates are running for which magistrate division. This year, there are 2 candidates for each of the magistrate judge positions in Valencia County. The magistrate candidates for Division 1 in Los Lunas, again, if you can raise your hands, are Michael Melendez and Miles R. Tafoya. Okay. For Division 2 in Belen, the candidates are Del P. Washington and John R. Chavez. For Division 3, also in Los Lunas, the candidates are Desiree Ann Sickler and Sabrina Real. Now, I will be asking all the same questions to all 6 of these candidates. Before this forum began, we had a drawing of names to see which candidate was going to get to go first to make their opening statement, and that would be Mr. Melendez. So Mr. Melendez, if you would like to make an opening statement, you have 2 minutes.
Yes, this is Michael Melendez. I'd like to thank everyone for being here, and especially the League of Women Voters for having this forum. Again, I'm Michael Melendez. I'm a candidate for Magistrate Judge Division 1 here in Valencia County. I chose to run because of my experience with law enforcement, 13 years experience, military experience, 9 years military experience, and business, run my own business for the past 20 years in construction, and a good 7 years of experience working with the behavioral health insurance. Now, my campaign is going to focus on issues of our elections. You know, we have a strong election system that I believe in. That's what we're participating in today. And this upcoming election, giving the voters the opportunity to vote for who they think is their best candidate. I believe that this campaign is going to also focus on social justice in our court systems, that we maintain the social justice system where all who appear in the court have a hearing, a due process hearing, and all cases are heard. And for a third, I'm focusing on community corrections, a program that is probably currently in place, but I'd like to make sure that it's working much more efficiently and that it improves the court's public appearance. Right now, it's like 30% approval, and hopefully we can improve that with work in the community corrections. Again, I'm Michael Melendez, candidate for Magistrate Judge, Division 1 here in Valencia County. Thank you.
The next candidate to make an opening would be Ms. Sickler, a candidate for Division 3.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for inviting us to join you on this forum and hosting this forum for us and giving us an opportunity to speak to the voters. I am Desiree Sickler. I am running for Magistrate Judge Division 3. I have been a lifelong resident of Valencia County. I am the mother of 3 beautiful children and the survivor of raising 2 teenage children. I have been a licensed realtor for 22 years, and during those 22 years being a licensed realtor, I have assisted my clients in numerous landlord-tenant cases and assisted my clients in dealing with the laws pertaining to selling and leasing of real property. I have also been Valencia County Treasurer for the last 6 years, assisting taxpayers of Valencia County in navigating the property tax laws and understanding their rights as taxpayers in Valencia County. Also in understanding and navigating, operating within the state statute, investing of public monies and public funds. In my career, I've spent a great deal of time needing to understand the laws that pertain to my career, understanding state statute, a lot of these things which can be heard and are heard in magistrate court. Sorry. Thank you so much for your consideration, and I would appreciate your vote.
The next candidate to speak would be Ms. Rail, also a candidate for Division 3.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me to this forum. My name is Sabrina Rael, and I'm running for Magistrate Judge Division 3. I believe my education, experience, and working knowledge, along with my passion for justice, makes me the right candidate for this position. In today's society, and with the positive growth of Valencia County, we need a firm voice of reason and a heart of compassion to render proper rulings from the bench. My team and I are fully prepared to fill this vacancy, and with your help, I look forward to doing just that. This evening, I will be answering your questions and proving to you I am the right call for Valencia County.
Thank you. Ms. Washington, candidate for Division 2, is the next to make an opening. And you have to unmute.
Thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Della Washington, and I'm running for Magistrate Judge in District 2. I've had various experiences in life, and I've held many different kinds of positions in life. I have a bachelor's degree from Stanford in honors social thought and institutions, which look at society and how we govern each other and make contracts to behave with each other. I also attended Yale Law School. I worked as a systems engineer at Bell Labs, product manager at AT&T, chairman of the UNM Valencia campus computer and vocational training department. And I think all of these different experiences have given me a lot of administrative knowledge, budgets, people, all of the administrative part of being a magistrate. I would like to ask for your vote. I think I'll be a fair and impartial judge. And I will look at the evidence to make my decisions. And thank you very much.
Mr. Travis, the other candidate for Division 2, please.
Yes, good evening, and thanks to the League of Women Voters for putting this on. It's important that we have a forum to share our views. I've been the magistrate judge here in Belen for 9 years. Before that, I served 27 years in the U.S. military in the United States Army. I'm from Valencia County. I was raised in 5th Street here in Belen. After leaving home and traveling the road for those 27 years with my wife and 5 kiddos, came back home and was appointed to be the magistrate judge. Been elected twice to this position since my appointment. In that 9 years, I've adjudicated 35,000 cases, over 35,000 cases. That's both civil and criminal, with an extraordinarily low appeal rate, one of the lowest in the state for a magistrate judge. I serve on a lot of local and state commissions and boards. I'm the vice president of the local DWI Planning Council. I'm a member of the Judicial Training and Education Advisory Council, where we plan the training for all judges, not just magistrates, municipal, Court of Appeals, district court judges. I also was appointed by the Supreme Court to serve on the New Mexico Sentencing Commission, where we make decisions about policy and law. And I'm on a subcommittee for that particular commission, where I review legislative rule changes, legislative any laws that are coming up to the system. And I'm currently on a subcommittee doing a long-term strategic plan for sentencing in New Mexico. As of April of this year, I was been appointed as the chair of the budget committee. So all the judiciary budgets that come through, about $300 million worth of budgets, come through my committee before we send them up to the Supreme Court, and then we turn them over to the legislature in January. So I'm running for to stay in my office. I would appreciate your vote. One quick clarification: although we have divisions, anyone in Valencia County can vote for any of the candidates for magistrate judge. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the clarification. All right, and then getting back to Division 1, we have Mr. Tafoya.
Good evening, and thank you for the League of Women Voters for putting this on. Thank you for everyone that's watching this. My name is Miles Tafoya, and I'm running for Valencia County Magistrate Judge Division 1. I've been serving as Magistrate Judge Division 1 since I was elected in 2021. Prior to this, I worked for the Valencia County DWI Drug Court as a surveillance officer for 6 years, helping clients follow mandatory sentencing requirements, following treatment requirements, and reporting to the court to help fight the addiction issues that we have in our community. Before that, I volunteered as the DWI Drug Court Veterans Mentor Coordinator for 1 year. And in that position, I helped veterans connect with the VA, and I was there for them to support them and listen to their concerns. I served 4 years in the U.S. Army with 1 tour in Iraq, received an honorable discharge. I've lived in Valencia County all my life, minus the time that I've spent in the military, and I've been raising my family here. I'm a husband and a father of 3. I hold a bachelor's degree in business, and I am currently serving as one of the county's DWI drug court judges because I know drug courts work. I'd like to continue serving Valencia County as your Magistrate Judge Division 1. Again, my name is Miles Tafoya, and I'm running for Valencia County Magistrate Judge Division 1.
Thank you. The first question, going back in the same order, but rotating a little bit, this would be for Ms. Sickler to start. There we go. Should the types of cases handled by magistrate judges be expanded, or should some types of cases, would they be better handled by district court judges of the cases that are currently handled by magistrates?
I personally feel that the cases that are currently heard by the magistrate courts are the appropriate cases to be heard in those types of courts, such as the landlord cases and the traffic cases, juvenile drug court cases, and criminal arraignment. And I feel that the current cases that are heard in division and district court are appropriate for those. I don't feel that anything from district court needs to be coming down into magistrate, and the rule or the purpose of the magistrate court is to alleviate some of the burden of the district court So I don't think that there's any cases that are currently heard in magistrate that need to be transferred up to district and taken away from the magistrates.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Rael, should there be any change to the types of cases handled by magistrate courts? Should they be expanded, or should some types of cases that magistrates currently handle be transferred to be handled by, or be changed so that they be handled by district court judges?
Ms. Kelly, thank you for the question. I think the caseload and the courts, the cases that are actually heard in magistrate right now are appropriate for magistrate, just because of the fact that magistrate can actually see the courses, the court cases before they go to district court. And as a magistrate, you make sure that all the ducks are in a row so a grand jury indictment doesn't have to go back and change anything, because cases from magistrate are bound over to district in criminal cases. As for civil cases, I think that the cases are appropriate, and that it could expand, make possibly on the limit, instead of just being under $10,000 to go above and maybe to $15,000, just to alleviate some more stress that's on district court. But other than that, it is the people's court, and that's why magistrate is here.
Okay. Ms. Washington, if you can unmute, please. The pending question is whether whether the cases handled by magistrate judges, the types of cases be expanded, or should some types of cases currently handled by magistrates be transferred so they would fall under the district courts instead?
I agree that the monetary values may need to be increased, because due to inflation, the amount of money that goes through transactions has increased. So something that may have cost $10,000, 5 years ago is going to cost $20,000 now. And I think that throws a lot more pressure on the district courts. So I would agree that the monetary values might need to be increased for the civil transactions.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think it should stay the way it is.
All right, Mr. Chavez, do you think there should be any change in the types of cases being handled by magistrate courts, whether there are more cases, different types come to them, or should other cases be handled by district courts instead?
Yeah, I think that, it's always a balancing. And so the legislature determines what the jurisdiction the magistrates and district courts have. They couldn't, there's been talk over the years about putting magistrate courts on the record. That's gaining some steam. That might happen in a couple of years. There's been talk for a long time about changing the financial, the amount of what we can adjudicate in terms of civil cases. I think the bottom line is that, if they were to change those jurisdictions, I feel very comfortable implementing, going on the record for more caseload or for an increased dollar amount. I have a very high caseload. I mean, I have for the last 2 years, I've had the highest average caseload of any judge in the state, about 35,000 cases per year. So any increased authority would certainly increase my caseload, but I think I'm up to it. I had 1 year of 62,000 cases, so I can handle a little more. But bottom line is I'm prepared to do whatever the legislature deems necessary for my jurisdiction.
And Mr. Tapoya, what would your answer be?
I think where we're at right now, the cases that I hear is appropriate with this. The best part about a magistrate court with the case that we have, and not necessarily being on the record or anything like that, is anybody can appeal a decision. So if you don't agree with something that I say, you could appeal it and you get a trial de novo, which is a brand new trial at district court. But again, like Judge Chavez said, if the legislator comes up with more stuff, I'm ready to take on more work. I think it's appropriate where it's at, but again, I'm ready for more work if we need to.
And then Mr. Melendez, if you could unmute, what would your answer be to the question about whether or not there should be any changes to the jurisdiction of magistrate courts?
Yeah, of course, if the legislature deems that there must be more of a load or less a load put upon magistrate courts, I would be, acceptable with that. I see that at 35,000, that's quite a caseload. It could be greater if the legislature deemed it. I would be able to handle that additional load, but I would really, again, focus more on the social justice and the due process of the clients coming in that needs to be focused on at all times, irrespective of the caseload. And I would be focusing on that and making sure everybody gets a good, fair hearing at each of these cases that I hear.
Right, thank you. Next question, Ms. Rael, if you could unmute because you'd be getting this one first. What are the most important issues for the mandatory magistrate training to cover?
I think some of the major issues for magistrate to cover is to ensure that the criminal and civil procedures are adhered to and that the judges are well educated on them. With the procedures, it also includes due process. So it makes sure that every client or person that comes into court, they make sure that everything is done right. As for other things to touch on during the magistrate training, it should be the criminal code, also the civil restrictions and what is allowed and how people talk in court, and probably just some training as an umpire. You always make sure that you have control in the courtroom and that people don't lash out. And I think that should be touched in on the magistrate training as well.
Ms. Washington, if you could unmute. What do you feel are the most important issues for the mandatory magistrate training to cover?
Of course, the laws themselves need to be covered, the criminal laws and the civil laws. But also, I agree that training in being a good referee, keeping order in the court, listening to the participants in the case, and generally allowing people to express themselves so that you can understand the situation. One of the other candidates mentioned that this is a people's court. And that means that somebody may not have the knowledge of the law or may not be able to speak in a way that other people are able to speak, but they should be listened and heard, and what they say should be taken into account in making your judgment.
Mr. Chavez, what are the most important subjects for the mandatory training to cover?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier I'm on the education commission or committee where we design training for all the judges in the state. And for magistrates, some of the mandatory training that's in place right now is ethics every year, 2 hours of ethics, an hour of DUI, and an hour of domestic violence. For brand new judges, we really try and focus on sort of the science of being a judge, the process, the procedures, the rules, understanding the law. And then as we develop judges over time, I'm a mentor judge and a coach judge, we try and move on to the art of it. And that's where you're taken into account, the things, the nuances of life. And so a case comes in front of you and it can seem on the outside very black and white, but the reality is there's nuances. You're dealing with individuals, you're dealing with humans. And so as a result of that, you must treat everybody with dignity and respect in court, giving them a chance to say their piece. But at the same time, there is a requirement to keep decorum in the courtroom, to limit hearsay, to make sure the information that's coming in is relevant to the case and those types of things. So I think the mandatory stuff that's in place now is good. And I think the process we have for developing our new judge is a very good system as well. Great question. Thank you.
Mr. Tafoya, the most important subjects to be covered in the mandatory training for magistrates?
I've done one of the trainings already, and I think it was great on the stuff they covered. I think a couple of things that new magistrates coming in should definitely be trained on are substance abuse, mental health, and the cycle of domestic violence. Also, how to communicate effectively and how to listen to understand and not just listen to respond. But other than that, ethics and basically the bare minimum stuff are what the rules and regulations are in New Mexico and what you have to follow.
Mr. Melendez, training for magistrate judges.
Yes, thank you, Ellen. Yes, definitely training because, the magistrate judge requirement is a basic high school diploma, nothing above and beyond that. I've personally gone and furthered my education with a bachelor's degree in economics and in electronics. But as a judge, for sure, we have to be aware of, the law, that especially constitutional law, that the citizens of Valencia County need and demand decent magistrate judges who are going to hear their case and have it adjudicated in a fair and judicial way. And having the training, and the more training I would get or I can get, I would definitely accept it and use it to be a better magistrate judge for the citizens of Valencia County. Thank you.
And then Ms. Sickler, your answer to the question about training for magistrate judges.
Good evening, thank you. Definitely training on the criminal laws and most importantly, the process of dealing with the criminals in mandatory sentencing and alternative methods. What works? Incarceration's not always the best. So the judge mentoring the alternative options, all of your different nuances as far as you have your direct process, your box, so to speak, that you have to work within, but being sympathetic to the community and the needs of the community. One thing, my time in magistrate, I think that from what I've seen, it seems like there should be a little bit more work on the civil aspect of the training.
Okay. Going on to the next question, then let's start with Ms. Washington. If you can unmute, please. Do you believe the current system for disciplining magistrate judges is effective? Why or why not?
I do not know what the current method for disciplining magistrate judges is right now. So I can't say that I believe it's effective or not. That's one of the things that I would have to learn at magistrate school. So I can't really answer that question.
Mr. Chavez, do you believe that the current system for disciplining magistrate judges is effective, and why or why not?
So it's the same system for all judges. And so if you have a judge who's having, say, some troubles or issues, they might be assigned a coach who would kind of help them through those, work through those issues. If they're having training issues, they might be sent to what's called the advisory council, which is another magistrate judge or another, any judge. Again, these are the same process for all the judges, would be assigned as a mentor to try and work on their training aspects of that. If it's a more serious issue, then it goes to judicial standards. And that process is a very deliberate process, full of due process, full of the opportunity to have counsel and everything else. And so it can be, a little laborious. And so there's been some serious issues that have happened in our state, and some of those have taken, a year or more to adjudicate. And so I can see why the public might be frustrated by the length of time it took something to get adjudicated through judicial standards. But those are really serious matters. If there's just a training issue or a decorum issue, then we're gonna work with those judges with coaching and with mentoring to try and keep them on the bench and just make them a better judge.
Mr. Tafoya, do you think that the current system for disciplining magistrate judges is effective, and why or why not?
I do, because as Judge Chavez stated, the whole purpose is to try and fix the issue. So we try and they try and get coached and fix any issues that may come up, and more serious issues gets taken up to a different level. Everything gets investigated. So if anyone wants to make a complaint against a judge, nothing just gets tossed out, and they investigate anything. So if anyone thinks that someone's not doing something right, they can report it. And I think it works very well.
Mr. Melendez, your opinion on that particular question?
Thank you, Ellen. Well, yes, I'm sure the system for monitoring judges and reporting on judges who have violated ethics or procedure, be it court procedure, constitutional procedure, I'm sure those will be are adequately addressed currently. And the reporting system, I would say, is probably a healthy reporting system. But again, you know, these judges who are elected by the citizenry should be given that opportunity to be reprimanded and or corrected and shown or coached the correct method of handling a case or the case that is in question. So yeah, I would say the current standard has probably been working well, and that's what I would expect to see if elected and representing the magistrate court here in Valencia County and supporting the citizens.
Ms. Stickler, what about you?
I as well am unfamiliar with I am unfamiliar with the complete process of what it is to discipline a magistrate judge. However, listening to Judge Chavez and Judge Tafoya, it sounds like it's a very due process, sounds like it's a very logical, common sense process. When it's just a misunderstanding, a clerical error, or just a training issue, work with the judge, train them properly. Of course, if they're breaking the law themselves, you know, additional more severe punishments, more severe measures need to be taken. But if there's a process in place with which you mentor judges and you educate them and you properly train them, and it's then escalated appropriately based on the actions of the magistrate judge, it sounds like it is a current functioning properly system.
Then, Ms. Rael, do you believe the current system for disciplining magistrate judges is effective, and why or why not?
Based on the research that I've done, it looks like it's very effective. They do have the coaching and the mentoring or retraining, but it's kind of a tricky thing to navigate whenever you're filing a complaint or at least looking at it. I think that it's great that they try to amend the problem and fix the problem with education and more training. And then if it's more serious, then they go to the progressive due process of an actual disciplinary hearing and matter. I think it's appropriate, and I think the state has done a great job with the Judicial Standards Commission.
All right. As a judge, what are the most effective methods that you can use to deal with difficult people, including other judges or lawyers, or the litigants, the parties that appear before you? And let's start with Mr. Chavez.
Yeah, so I think active listening is probably the best way to do it. So people who come to court aren't always in their best situation. And so if someone comes into court and they're frustrated because they're there, you don't really know what's going on in their life. And so, you know, you can actively listen to them to a point. One of the things that we're taught is if you have someone who's really acting up in court, that maybe you just say something like calming. Say, it sounds like you have something really important that you need to talk to me about. I want to make sure I give you your full time and attention. I'm going to ask you to take a seat, and then bring them back, and you've let them know you're going to hear from them. you'll let them know you're going to give them their time and just show that dignity and respect to them. And I think that's the same whether you're dealing with other people in life as well too. You know, people come to you sometimes, they're just not in their best situation, and you can rise to that, I suppose, or you can take a step back and say, you know, how can I de-escalate this issue that's in front of me, whether it's in the courtroom, whether it's in the community, whether it's, you know, within your own family. De-escalation is really best, and listen, right, and try and understand the perspective where they're coming from. It really is, as I said earlier, it's really about just, you know, showing dignity to it and respect to the human being that's in front of you.
Mr. Tafoya, as a judge, what would be the most effective ways to deal with difficult people that you have in your courtroom or with other judges?
I have to say, as a magistrate, I can't, maybe I could count it on my one hand how many times people are happy to be in court. I don't think anybody's ever happy to have to come to court for anything. Like Judge Chavez said, and it's hard to go after him. He's got some great answers for everything. Just listening and using motivational interviewing techniques. So kind of rephrasing. So what I heard you say is this, to make sure people are they understand that you're listening to what they say. Sometimes when people get a little heated, it's good to take a break, have everyone step out, calm down, and come back in and go from there. And if it keeps escalating, then we can escalate from there. As far as dealing with other difficult magistrates, I haven't run into that situation. But I imagine if I did, what I can do is just communicate with them directly, maybe communicate through a third magistrate to see what the situation that's going on with them. But just understanding that we're all human beings, we all have tough days, and us as magistrates, we get to see those tough days every day.
Mr. Melendez, as a judge, what would be the most effective way for you to deal with difficult people, including lawyers or parties or perhaps other judges?
Yes, as a magistrate judge, definitely, you know, giving the individuals the understanding that the courts are here for a good reason, and that's a good thing. And hearing their case and helping them to present their case in a way that serves them properly is what I would definitely work at assisting a difficult situation or an angry situation to help them to express their case. A lot of times that is the problem, where individuals are having a difficult time expressing themselves, and under the pressure of being in a courtroom, it probably doesn't make it any better. But you know, taking the time to listen to their case and helping them to represent themselves as best they can in the concern and the case at hand. You know, due process and understanding that every citizen that appears before the court is out to give their best presentation with regard to their side of the case, and help them to do that is what I would be supportive of, and hopefully make the best decision on behalf of the case in itself.
Okay. Ms. Sickler, do you need to hear the question again, or are you ready to
Yes,
answer?
please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. As a judge, what would be the most effective way for you to deal with difficult people, including other judges, lawyers, or the parties who appear in matters before you?
I do agree with all the other candidates that definitely active listening, working to understand who's the point of view of the person who is speaking to you. In dealing with difficult people, though, in my career and also as a treasurer, I also find that not only understanding them and listening to them is important. A lot of times they're difficult because they don't necessarily understand what is the next process, what's going to happen. And sometimes people are difficult just simply because they're scared and they really don't know what's going to happen next. And so I find that helping educate them and let them know how the process will go sometimes will calm some people down.
Okay. Ms. Rael, what about you? As a judge, what would be the most effective ways of dealing with the difficult people you encounter in the job?
Well, dealing with difficult people is a staple of my background. So I work in corrections, and 9 out of 10 inmates or offenders that are in corrections, they just want to be heard. They just want to be listened to. And that's the most important thing, is listening to their concern and then giving them an answer or giving them a way to move forward and deal with the issue that they're having. In a court case situation, it's a matter of them being heard. Giving them the dignity as a human being is the best way to get them to calm down. And also working as a sports official, you know, right at the plate meeting, whenever you're talking to both the coaches, you're going to tell them the calls that I make, one person's going to be happy, one person's going to be mad. But at the same time, just come talk to me and ask the question that's needed. And sometimes us as judges, if we're not understanding them, we just need a clarifying question to move forward and get to the issue that they're having and to understand the case that's being heard or their standpoint. So dealing with difficult people is a staple in my background, and it's difficult, but it's, as long as you listen and you hear what they're saying, that's what makes the difference, and treating them like humans.
And then Ms. Washington, as a judge, what would be the most effective way for you to deal with the people that you encounter in the job?
I think that active listening is very important. As a university lecturer, as also working at the domestic violence shelter, you need to realize that people can be upset not about the case that they're presenting, even something else may be going on in their life, and you need to give them a little leeway and try to calm them down when they're being difficult. But certainly listening to find out what is the problem, why are they acting aggressively, is very important. Listening, repeating back to them what you hear to make sure that you've heard correctly what they're saying. So yeah, listening and respecting the other person's dignity.
All right, then this last question, let's start with Mr. Tafoya. Since Valencia County has fewer than 200,000 people, residents, magistrate, judges must have a high school diploma or a GED. They don't have to have graduated from the university, or they don't have to be a lawyer. Are those sufficient qualifications for magistrates in Valencia County, or should there be others?
I'm a firm believer in just because you have a degree doesn't necessarily mean that you're qualified to do something. I think anybody could learn the job. I think there are some changes that may be coming where it may be raised to possibly an associate's level, potentially bachelor's degree. But I do think it's appropriate where it's at. I think when you start making it harder for people to run for certain positions, then you start kind of limiting the pool of who could run for it. And then we get into a situation where only highly educated people that had the means to get there are able to represent a normal person that is living here day to day.
All right, Mr. Melendez, your answer. If you need the question,
Yes.
again, please let me know.
I believe I understood regarding minimal qualifications in education. Because it's the people's court, I understand that is one of the primary reasons that even the state legislature has the current requirements where they're at is a high school diploma or GED. But definitely, you know, any further education that one has, work experience, that should all be part of what our voters look at. You know, what have I done, you know, as a candidate, my work in criminal justice, in our prison systems, in our public housing, you know, in behavioral health, credentialing and billing, working in the public with construction. You know, these are things that individuals want to know what I've done as a candidate, and would I be able to relate to them, and can I relate to them? I believe I can, with my experience and my education, and understand what the cases are that come before me, and be able to adequately adjudicate and provide a fair hearing. I think that's what our voters are really looking at, a good fair hearing in our magistrate courts, and I believe I can do that. I believe I will do that. Thank you.
Ms. Sickler, are the current minimum qualifications for magistrate judges in counties like Valencia with fewer than 200,000 people, are they adequate?
I thought about this question when I received this question before the primaries. And due to the fact that I believe magistrate judge is a court of the people, you have to have some life experience. So I would be interested in seeing the age requirement to run for the office be increased. I'm not certain that I agree that an 18-year-old would necessarily be qualified, just due to lack of life experience. Also, looking over the mandatory judge training that is required prior to taking office, I was feeling like that would be good training to take prior to even putting your hat in the ring for office. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Rail.
This is a very valid question about education and requirements for the magistrate judge position. Like Ms. Sickler said, I don't agree that an 18-year-old would have enough life experience. However, whenever you have a magistrate judge that's running for a populations like Albuquerque with 200,000 or more, you need a Juris Doctorate. So basically they need to be admitted by the bar. That would mean that it would be a master's or a doctorate level. So requiring more education for a magistrate I don't think that would be outside of the realm, because a bachelor's degree is just in the process, or even an associate's. I think that would be valid. Also, whenever you have an educated person, they're able to critically think. Now, I'm not saying that people that have not gone to college, they can't critically think, but it makes them think in a different way. I think requirements should be adjusted based on the fact of what our legislature and the way where we want to move as a community.
Okay. And Ms. Washington?
I do not think that the requirements should be any higher. I feel that the requirements for the legislature to write the laws are not higher. And I think that the laws, if they're written by average people, they should be adjudicated by average people. If you can't understand the law, then there's something wrong with that law. So no, I don't think the requirements need to be increased.
And Mr. Chavez?
Yeah, so as it's been said, these are set by the legislature, and there is talk about changing, adding some additional education requirements or even an age requirement, but that's really outside of our purview. If you're elected, then you're also a member of the Magistrate Judges Association, and the association is looking at that as well, as to what the qualifications should be. One of the things that's important to note in New Mexico is we have a shortage of attorneys, and so we have sometimes there's people out there who argue that magistrates should be attorneys, but we have 6 counties who don't have any attorneys, and so that's likely not going to happen anytime soon. I would say though, to the age, right now currently there is no magistrate that's under the age of 30. I think it's actually 32 is our youngest magistrate, and so just I think some self-selection in determining whether or not they can do the job. I think the people who have taken office throughout the state have brought to bear work experience and the like. And it's really cool to get together because we have lawyers, but we also have teachers, we have bankers, we have human resource specialists. It's really kind of neat when all the magistrates are together. And as I mentioned, I'm the chair of the budget committee. I'm not the chair of the budget committee because I have a law degree, because I do not. I'm the chair of the budget committee because I have experience running large budgets at the Pentagon and other things. And so bringing that to bear and then offering that experience to the judiciary is a really great thing that magistrates are able to do.
Okay, thank you. All right. At this point, I think we can move on to any closing remarks that you might like to make. You would have up to 90 seconds for those. And let's start with Mr. Chavez.
Yeah, I just want to thank the league for putting this on. I really want to thank all the candidates too. It's great that we had all the candidates present tonight. That speaks well of everybody, and I think that's really wonderful. I look forward to staying in office. I love what I do. 35,000 cases later, I'm not tired. I'm not tired of it. I still want to help people move forward from where they are in those difficult situations we talked about earlier. Move them forward through the process, move them through the process, and always do that with dignity and respect. So, John R. Chavez, running for Division 2 to stay in my position. Any voter in Valencia County can vote for any magistrate judge candidate. So, appreciate your vote. Have a good evening and God bless you all.
All right, Mr. Tafoya.
Thank you again to the league and all the candidates that were here today. I wanted to take a moment to invite anyone from our community to come to court on any court day to gain a better understanding of the legal process, see what works and see what may need improvement. All courts are open to the public. You can call my courthouse at the Las Lunas Magistrate Courthouse, 505-865-4637, and find out when our dockets are, certain docket days. You can get the Google Meet link, sit in on court, and see for yourself kind of how the process works. I believe if we work together, we could find solutions to any problem that our community can face. I want to continue my service to you and stay in my position as Valencia County Magistrate Judge Division 1. Again, my name is Miles Tafoya, and I'm running for Valencia County Magistrate Judge Division 1.
Mr. Melendez, any closing comments?
Yes, thank you, Ellen, and the League of Women Voters. Again, I'm Michael Melendez, candidate for Magistrate Judge Division 1 here in Valencia County. My experience, my strong belief and faith in our country and our elections, social justice, liberty and justice for all. That's what our courts need to uphold for all of our citizens that come before the courts. And I believe I can do that. I've worked with many people in the community, been a resident of New Mexico for 58 years of my 63 years, and been living here in Valencia County for the past 15 years, and it's been home. I really love the area, the people. It's a good place to live, and raised a family. I'm a family man. And again, I'm Michael Melendez, candidate for Magistrate Judge here in Valencia County, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Ms. Sickler, any closing comments?
Yes, again, thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum and giving us this opportunity, and all of the candidates who are here this evening and all of the wonderful answers. Particularly appreciate our two seasoned judges, magistrate judges, for being here this evening and giving us some wonderful feedback and information. I am Desiree Sickler. I've been a lifelong resident of Valencia County. I have had a long career here, with my career dealing a lot in laws and helping the citizens of Valencia County. I would love to embark on this new adventure and dealing and helping the citizens of Valencia County as a magistrate judge. Again, as John has said, it is a county-wide race, and anyone can vote for any one of the judges as long as you live here in Valencia County. That being said, I'd appreciate your vote. I am Desiree Sickler. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Rael.
Thank you again for putting on this forum. It's been a great experience. My name's Sabrina Rael, and I'm asking for your vote. I'm currently running for Valencia County Magistrate Court Division 3 here. My education consists of a Master's of Science degree in leadership, and my undergrad degrees include a double major in criminology psychology and then also an Associate of Arts in criminal justice. My education is one thing, but my experience is another. Working in corrections and detentions is a staple that I hold myself to. And it has provided me a lot of the life experience and how to deal with people and how to talk to people, especially, and how to actively listen. Since starting my campaign for magistrate judge, I have spoken to and I've sat in on actual trials, and I have discovered that this is something that I can really do and be very successful at. My basis for running is that we, the people of Valencia County, have with the retirement of John Buddy Sanchez, have a void, and I'm the person that can fill that void. And I just want to ask Valencia County to vote for me and be very educated on your vote, on who you vote for. All cases that will be brought before me, I'll be look at in a fair, neutral, and meticulous manner. And I just want to be that person to make the right call for Valencia County. I'm Sabrina Rael, and I'm the right call.
Right. Do you have any closing comments? If you want to unmute.
My turn. My name is Del Washington, and I appreciate the chance to speak to the public. Thank you, the League of Women Voters, for having this forum. I've lived here for over 30 years, and I moved here because it's most like where I grew up in Southern California, the San Fernando Valley. The mix of people is very similar, and I enjoy the friendliness of the people and willingness to talk to you about anything. My parents, my father was career military. My mother served as a nurse during World War II and worked in military hospitals when we were stationed with my father, overseas, mainly in Germany and otherwise in California. I came to live here with my mother, and we had a very lovely time here. And I plan to stay here. I have a foster son. I've never been married, but I've enjoyed having a foster son. And I am deeply religious. However, I also have a mind, and I use it a lot. Right now, I'm acting and writing. I've written a novel. I've other novels to write and other nonfiction to write. So thank you. I'm asking for your vote. My name is Del Washington, Division 2.
Thank you very much. And as our control people switch over to the next race, the legislative seat for House District number 8, let me say that yes, indeed, all the voters in Valencia County will have a chance to vote for the magistrate candidates in all 3 divisions. And if you have any questions about how that works or who the candidates are, you can, starting next week, take a look at vote411.org as we have it up there on the screen, I hope for everybody to see. And you can double check to see who the candidates are in all the races, as well as what some of the other issues are, like bond issues. Thank you. All right, so we will now switch over to the candidates for New Mexico House of Representatives, District number 8. All right, and so we have on screen our 2 candidates, Brian Baca and Paul Kinzelman. Mr. Baca is running as a Republican, and Mr. Kinzelman is a write-in candidate for House District number 8. thank you very much for agreeing to participate in this forum. And since some of the most interesting, all the interesting questions get presented to the legislature, I will jump right in. Mr. Kinzelman, could you start by giving us an introduction, perhaps, of up to 2 minutes?
I am Paul Kinzelman, a write-in candidate for House District 8 in Valencia County. I do not come to you today with specific solutions to our complex problems because quick soundbite solutions can make problems worse. Instead, I come to you with my values to guide me in seeking solutions. If your values match mine, then you probably would agree with my votes. I also don't regard myself as a good Democrat because I would vote for or against anything merely because I would not vote for against anything merely because the party said so. In fact, I think we'd be better off eliminating parties altogether. I would accept solutions and answers no matter what package they come in. Too many politicians and voters too treat politics as a spectator sport. My team, right or wrong. They don't objectively evaluate issues. They just blindly vote for their team. I think what gets lost in our divisive political environment is that we all want the same things across the political spectrum: safety for our families and freedom to make our own decisions. We may have differences of opinion of how to make this happen, but we should start our discussion from this common ground. Yelling sound bites and accusations back and forth instead of thoughtful dialogue and active listening is not helpful. I think both sides of the political divide need to participate in coming up with solutions to problems, which is why I support thoughtful and creative bipartisan efforts to address root causes. Things I think are important: safe and sufficient water, safe environment from toxins and criminals, an economy that works for everybody, affordable quality healthcare, safe quality education for all children, quality food security. Children should not go to bed hungry in the richest nation in the world. A justice system focused on rehabilitation, restorative justice, mitigation of climate change, a government that is responsive to citizens and promotes the general welfare, representatives who respond to constituents. Please visit votepaulk.org for details. Thank you.
Right. Mr. Baca, would you like to make an opening?
Well, first off, I want to thank you guys for the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to get folks to know who I am. My name is Brian Baca. I'm the current House of Representative for District 8, having been appointed in January to replace longtime Representative Alonso Baldonado. Who I am is based upon my core values and beliefs of God, family, and country. I am unapologetically a man of faith. I pray daily for spiritual guidance and strength to do what's right. One of my greatest accomplishments was actually getting to pray over the legislature twice during this 30-day session. I'm a family man, having been married to my wife for 20 years. We have 3 children that all attend Las Vegas schools. And finally, of country and patriotism. Although our country is facing some very challenging times, I do believe in our democracy. I do believe in what we're trying to do. And I want to be part of the solution to help make it better for my family and my kids. 4th generation resident of Las Vegas, a graduate of Las Vegas High School. I have my bachelor's and master's from the University of New Mexico, where I attended on an athletic scholarship. I'm a 30-year educator, having taught and been an administrator at all different levels. I've only worked for 2 districts my whole career. I have dedication and commitment to where I am. I've chosen to come back, raise my family in Las Vegas. I'm involved with many different community groups, public service, and also with our local police, fire, schools, and other community projects. I really have an emphasis on building relationships and trust. I want to thank you guys for this opportunity, and I understand the responsibility that I've undertaken, and I take it very seriously.
Thank you both. The first question then we'll start with Mr. Baca. Given the current state of the economy and the volatility of the oil and gas revenues received by the state each year, what funding should be increased or decreased in the upcoming state budget during the next session?
Well, I actually sit on the Legislative Finance Committee as a voting member. So I understand very much as far as the economy and how we are actually going into recession. Oil and gas right now is an important part and a big part of all of our funding. So I do think that what we have to do is we, as a potentially having a surplus of $2 billion, we have to make investments in what will be reoccurring costs, what will be one-time capital projects or one-time costs, and what will be put aside for our future as part of our permanent land foundation. So as a legislator, we have to be fiscally responsible and make sure that where our monies are put, that we have the greatest impact towards the life and happiness of our citizens. Needs to be as far as funding for police, fire, for safety, for infrastructure, for public health, and especially our social emotional health of all individuals. You know, it's a huge task, and it's a task that, you know, is something that we can't take lightly. We have to make an investment now because the decisions we're making are not just for ourselves, but it's for our children and our grandchildren. So it is an important task, and I do have a very good understanding of what needs to be done.
Thank you, Mr. Kinzelman. Given the state of the economy and the volatility of the oil and gas revenues that the state receives every year, what funding should be increased or decreased in the upcoming state budget during the next legislative session? You need to unmute. Thank you.
I think the most important thing is in building a future we can all be proud of is our children. Our education is close to the bottom of the pack of the country. And I would invest more in teachers, schools, children, preschool, all that stuff that gives, and home visits, all that stuff that gives our children a jump start on life, because they're going to, in 20 years, they would be managing our 401ks and so on. So I'd say mostly education and healthcare and behavioral. We need to rebuild our behavioral treatment facilities in the state, which were devastated in the past, because that is the root cause of a lot of our problems. Thank you.
All right, since we're alternating here about who answers questions first, Mr. Kinzelman, what action, if any, should the state legislature take regarding the permissibility of abortions in New Mexico?
Well, I don't think anybody supports abortion. The question is whether the government should be involved in the decision between a woman and her doctor. And I don't think, personally, I don't think the government should be involved. I don't know enough about individual situations to really be able to judge that. And every situation is distinct and different. So trying to make general laws that fit and are fair for everybody, I think, is an insurmountable task. So I would take the libertarian approach of the government should not be involved in that decision. Thank you.
Mr. Baca?
You know, that's one of those topics that actually has a great deal of division, and there's definitely compassion and very passionate people on both sides of it. On one hand, you have the women's health, which is, again, is important. On the other, you have as far as the anti-abortion. Like most Americans and New Mexicans, late-term abortion to me is really unacceptable. I believe that that's something that we need to look at. And as a legislator, when I sit there, my personal belief is I'm pro-life. But when I sit in that representative chair, I have to make sure that I properly represent what my community wants. I believe that Valencia County is very involved with the church community. I do believe that there is many people that have the same sentiment. I would say that what we need to do is we need to actually take this out there and make it on the ballot and let the voters decide. Not for somebody like myself as a politician to make those decisions for people, but I think that we really need to get our own voters to go out there and represent through their vote, their opinions of what we should guide and what we should do for our future and around the issues of pro-choice and pro-life.
Mr. Baca, switching again, should legislators be required to publicly disclose the allocations they've received from their caucuses for capital allocations and how that money is spent?
Can you clarify? Are you talking about the capital outlay monies that we received, or what can you clarify that?
Sure. Of the monies that well, let's take it both ways. Should it be publicly disclosed, the funds that legislators receive, and also how they end up being spent?
Well, that's part of what we do as legislators, that we actually do have to account for monies that are coming in there. As part of our reporting period, we have to disclose where our monies, what we have received from these. There are limits to those, and those are definitely, we have to produce those during the required reporting periods of time. Now, where we spend our allocations for our money, for our junior monies or capital monies, it's actually public record. You can see where I place my monies. I actually invested in the schools, our police, our fires, our roads, our infrastructure. So I think that those things are already, that process is in place. You know, I think that that it is in the interest of transparency. People need to know about where these things are. And, you know, through the research, you can see where a legislature or what projects have been funded for myself. For myself, the money that I received last legislative session, I was able to fund 16 projects in my 5 communities in Valencia County.
All right. Mr. Kinzelman, what would your position be on the possible public disclosure of money received for capital outlay projects by legislators and how that money is spent?
That to me is a total no-brainer. In fact, I was under the impression that it was secret and that you couldn't find out. I don't know that much about it myself, but I'm a firm believer in sunshine as the best disinfectant. A lot of things fix themselves and don't need legislation, don't need laws. When you just make things public and people are ashamed to do things that the public will find out that they would do if the public didn't find out. So to me, public disclosure is absolutely essential, not only in this case, but in pretty much everything, campaign finance, pretty much everything. Everything should be public and accessible unless there is a valid, real reason, more than just somebody's going to be embarrassed, to keep it not public. Thank you.
And Mr. Kinzelman, do you support or oppose a statewide ban on the sale of assault-style weapons?
That's a tough one. I support people owning guns responsibly, and I don't know that assault style is really well defined. I would need to learn more about it. But if it's a weapon of war like the military uses, then I would support banning it. But if the hunters can, or whoever wants it, can come up with a good reason why it's reasonable for them to have it, I'll listen. I think one of the things that a legislator should do is listen and gather information. My background is engineering and solving problems. And the first step to solving a problem is understanding the data, understanding both sides, and then trying to work the best solution for all of us. And so I would learn more about it from people and decide where to draw the line after gathering information from both sides of the issue. Thank you.
Mr. Baca?
This is again another very difficult issue because one, everyone has watched the news and you can see the tragedies that have taken place around our country, Uvalde, you know, through our malls and our other public office. So we definitely, there is a concern for public safety. On the other hand, I do believe that responsible gun ownership should not be impeded by the legislature or any other body. I believe that when we're talking about responsible owners, the criminals already have their guns. They're already out there on the streets. They have access to these guns. So by having very restrictive laws and bans on certain types of laws isn't really going to be at the root of the problem. More the root of the problem is more in the social, the mental health areas, those people that are having difficulties. I think that in addition to responsible gun ownership, we also need to make sure that we're meeting the social emotional needs of all people, that we have proper enough social resources for them to get the help that they need, because we're not going to cure this by just making a blanket ban on guns. We have to get to the core issues of the mental health, the breakdown of the family, and also we have to have that sense of community, that it's everyone's responsibility to keep our schools, our streets, and our communities safe.
Mr. Baca, what specific changes, if any, would you like to see in New Mexico's public education system for kindergarten through grade 12?
Well, that's a great question. As a 30-year educator, I've actually been involved with all of these discussions. And as I said, I've taught both elementary school, middle school, high school, regular ed, special ed, and gifted. And let me just make an emphasis that it is not about our teachers or our staff that is not working hard enough. It's not that our students are not smart like any people across here. What I think is what we really need to do is we need to emphasize and focus and narrow down what it is. You know, I want us to reduce the amount of stuff that we're requiring for our schools, our districts, and our teachers. I want the districts to make local decisions based upon what their community needs. I want the principals to be leaders of instruction where they can go out there and they can support their teachers. And I want to reduce the tasks that teachers are required so that they have the energy and the time. I want the teachers to have the energy to teach our students. We have to address class size. And again, we have to balance that between accountability, and we want to see improvement in performance. I believe that miracles happen every day in schools. I think that there's so many things that we're doing well, but I do believe that we need to have some more focus from our public education department. And also part of that is we need to have more consistency and not be changing Secretary of Educations every few years or 3 months, sorry.
Mr. Kinselman, what specific reforms would you like to see, if any, in the public education system in New Mexico for kindergarten through grade 12?
Well, there's a couple of things I can think of. I personally haven't been involved with the school system, so I would go out there and talk to numerous people all up and down the scale from principal down to students and find out what their input is, because they're the experts on it. They deal with that on a day-to-day basis. But absent that, what I would say is Finland is extremely successful with their students. I think we should study what Finland is doing and see if any of that is appropriate for us. Class size is a big important one. I actually did some substitute teaching in California when I lived there, and one person can really disrupt the class. So class size is really important. And the two things I think are missing, as I understand it from our study in most schools, is civics and personal economics. How to balance a checkbook, how to make change, things of that nature. I would like to see added to the curriculum. Thank you.
And then one last question for the two of you, since it's going pretty quickly. What changes, and let's start with Mr. Kinselman, what changes, if any, should the legislature make regarding the state ethics commission ability to discipline legislators?
Well, I would talk to people in a lot of different positions on both sides of the issue and understand it, because I don't really know exactly how the ethics works. But I think ethics are very serious. And the main change that I would like to see, my personal hot button, is campaign finance. People typically work for who pays them. And so we need to make sure that we are the ones paying them and not the big corporations, so that they will actually work for us. To me, that's the biggest root cause of why things don't work well. And the money aspect is a big deal for the ethics people to look into. Who's funding? Where's their money coming from? So that would be my main investigation to understand the problem and how to change it and make it better. Thank you.
Mr. Baca, regarding the State Ethics Commission, what changes, if any, do you think the legislature should make in the way the commission gets to oversee or discipline legislators?
You know, what you're referring to is a governmental conduct act. And it's almost a shame that we have that, because what that means is that somebody that has been entrusted by the voters into a position of authority or of power has then used that position to cause harm to another, whether it be personally, financially, or otherwise. You know, with the latest New Mexico Supreme Court ruling that now it's no longer criminal for some of these actions to take place, I think that we need to relook at that. The role of our legislator, the role of our courts, and the role of our executive is to make sure that we operate our government and provide a safe environment for all folks. And I think that we actually lost some ground with this recent Supreme Court ruling regarding the Governmental Conduct Act. So I think that we need to come out there and we do need to regulate ourselves. We do need to look about there and make sure that we have the proper checks and balances between the executive, the judicial, and the legislative branch to provide safety nets for all those in government and those constituents that we serve.
All right. Let's get to any closing statements that you might like to make then. And since Mr. Kinzelman got to make the first opening, we'll let Mr. Baca make the first closing.
Again, I want to thank you guys for giving this opportunity so you guys can see who it is and what I represent and what I stand for. I'm actually have a proven as far as track record of success. As appointed in January, I could have made the excuse that I didn't understand, that I was there. I was reporting on a Wednesday, and on Monday, I'm in the House of Representatives. I didn't sit back there, but I did is I learned very quickly. I began to understand and I began to adapt. And I began very early on to play a part in this legislative session. I was part of these legislations that went through. I was a part of some of the actions that did or did not make it through the House of Representatives. I'm an honest, good communication skills. I do have the courage and compassion to do what's right and what's best for New Mexicans and for Valencia County. I have shown through my track record that when it comes to it, I will do what's right rather than what a party line may be or what is popular with everyone. I've seen, people can say that what they will do or if given an opportunity. Well, I think my track record showed that what I do is I currently sit in the legislative finance as a voting member. I sit in the Legislative Education Study Committee, Veterans Military Affairs, and the Education Committee. So I do ask for your opportunity to go back there and to serve Valencia County and continue the work that we started for the good of all of our citizens. Thank you.
Mr. Kinzelman, would you like to make some closing remarks?
Yes, thank you very much for spending your time here to become more informed about your potential legislators, and thanks to the League of Women Voters for holding this forum. I would like to close by noting we've been discussing issues, but I would like now to end by shining a light on the root cause of our problems. This understanding is necessary to come up with workable solutions to the myriad of higher level problems. I believe that there are two views of government. One, and Grover Norquist's view, is to make it small enough that we can drown it in a bathtub. My view is that government provides essential services for, as the Constitution says, promoting the general welfare. The biggest obstacle to a government that works for us is the problem of legalized bribery, campaign finance, due to the corrosive effect of money. Everybody across the political spectrum knows the system doesn't work. People work for who pays them, and it's not us. We must end corporations having all the rights of people and end donations being protected as free speech under the First Amendment. Another root cause is that a handful of people own as much wealth as the bottom half of the population, allowing them to purchase laws that favor them and politicians that work for them. That massive wealth gap is a result of an economy that doesn't work for most people. An economy that allows that extreme level of wealth gap, not seen for 100 years, is not a well-designed economy. I favor legislation that would address this gap. Please go to votepaulk, votepaulk.org for more information. Thank you for your time.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. And on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Central New Mexico, I want to thank all of our candidates and everyone who has watched or will be watching this particular forum. And I also want to apologize particularly to Mr. Jones, the candidate for sheriff, who was the first person who participated in the forum this evening, because I think I misidentified him as a Republican when he's running for the office as a Democrat. Now, please remember to, that we have another forum for the remaining Valencia County races scheduled for October 3rd. You can send in your suggested questions to, get a pencil, LWVCNM forum, that's all one phrase, .questions@gmail.com. And the website for the League of Women Voters of Central New Mexico will also be updated with information about how you can register to watch that particular forum live. Almost finally, definitely check out vote411.org to find out more about the candidates running in New Mexico and in Valencia County and the issues that will be on your ballot. And finally, whatever else you do, do not forget to vote. Thank you very much.